Everyone, how you doing? So I have been, I don't know, struggling, kind of trying to come up with something that I could really get behind, besides real estate investing, rentals, and all of that. Because you can only talk about real estate investing so much before you kind of start to feel like you're repeating yourself. And after going to a couple of events, talking with dozens and dozens of new investors, experienced investors, I think I've come across a concept that's going to get a bunch of my attention the next month or so. Probably going to be creating a bunch of videos and contents as I kind of flush this idea out. And that is the 40-40 life. I think the 40-40 life is the default kind of setting on our lives that kind of just happens. And if you don't know what I mean by the 40-40 life, it's just this. You kind of graduate high school or college or whatever your choice is. Then you start working 40 hours a week for 40 years. But there's a problem. Lots of us, myself included, never really appreciated that we were walking into the default setting. We were walking into the rat race. And what really happens if we're not careful, the 40-40 life takes over and we can't get out. And there's so much downside to the 40-40 life. Let me share with you just a couple. First and foremost, the numbers say, right, if you work 40 hours for 40 years and you put money away in your 401k, you're really setting your life to kind of end your working years to live on less. There's a lot of numbers out there that round it down to about 40%. Why do you want to work 40 hours for 40 years to live on 40%? That doesn't sound like a good idea. Another thing that came up as I'm doing this research and trying to figure out, what is there around the 40-40 life is there's about 40% of us that are in the 40-40 life that cannot write a $400 check that clears because we're living paycheck to paycheck. We have no savings. We jumped into the 40-40 life with exuberance and excitement and ready to get started. And then we're just a hamster wheel moving forward. And then there was one thing that I actually saw in a commercial yesterday. And I don't remember which commercial, maybe one of you saw it as well. But it basically talked about the folks in the 40-40 life, basically busy employees. You only get 38, and I've rounded it to 40, minutes of quality time with your family. Lots of people will tell you when they're asked, why do you work so hard? It's because you can, I want to spend time with my family. I want to provide for my family. I want to do this. I want to do that. But in reality, we're sacrificing some of the most important years and only getting 40 minutes a day of quality time. Again, this is on average. And again, I think it was a State Farm or an insurance commercial I saw this at. So again, there's some pretty significant downsides to the 40-40 life. But this is the real problem. The 40-40 life is built on three things. It wants you to earn, right? Actually, let me step that back. It wants you to work, right? 40 hours. It wants you to earn money, cash, paycheck, whatever. And then it wants you to spend. That's what the rat race is built on. And I don't care if you are making $20,000 a year, 12,000, 120, or 500,000. I have known people that earn that across the entire spectrum. And if you're living the 40-40 life, sure, you're working hard, you're earning, but you're spending it all. It doesn't matter. If you're spending all of your income, at the end of the day, it does not matter what you report to the IRS. You've done nothing. The only way in my mind to get out of the 40-40 life is to work, earn, save, invest, and then spend. Lots of us don't understand needs versus wants. We've talked about that a lot on this channel. There are ways that you can change the default setting. Again, it's like it's hitting me pretty hard. It's like a video game. And I've never been a big gamer, could never afford them, never really saw the point. But every time I've seen someone play, you kind of get a default character, and then you can go in and change, I don't know, armor and strength, or I don't know, whatever they are. But a lot of us don't change our default setting on our lives. And again, if you've heard our story, I didn't even understand it until I was 30. I was working, earning, and spending, and had nothing to show for it. Rich Dad, Poor Dad comes along, shocks me a little bit, causes me to go, kind of reset. I start working, earning, saving, and investing, right? Living below our means, sacrificing. And this is where it comes. You can, increase the first 40, right? You can work a side hustle. Today's environment is much easier. You can do side hustles online. You could start investing like we did by researching online. But if you spend your first 40, do your thing, then maybe spend 5 hours extra a week doing that side hustle, over time, it will become meaningful. For us, right, that second 40, because we did that first sacrifice of 5 hours, we ended up only spending 25 years, right? So for us, that ratio of 40-40, which is the default setting, looked like 45 or 50, and then 25. So we bought 15 years of freedom. We can write more than a $400 check in case of an emergency. We are not going to be living on 40% of our salaries because we can pay our bills with the cash flow. And most importantly, we can spend all the time we want with the people we want. But again, it took years of sacrifice. If you've heard our story, watch this channel, 15 years of real sacrifice. We didn't want to live the 40-40 life, and I didn't know it at the time. That's not what I called it at the time. It's only what I'm calling it in retrospect. I'm trying to create a story that people can get behind, and right now the story is 40-40. I want people to think the 40-40 is your default. It's what you're taught in school. It's what your parents want for you. Get in the rat race, climb the corporate ladder, do all these things. And what I want you to realize is if you make just a couple of small tweaks, you can shave years off your working life. You can live better in the financial future, right? Because you have some assets, and you can spend more time with the people you want. So I'm going to do a bunch more videos on this. I'd love to hear what you have to say about the 40-40 life. Do you see it the same way? Is it the rat race? Is it what we've been taught? Is anybody else talking about this? I'd love to see it. I'd love your ideas and comments because I really think there's something here. I think people listen to stories and they can internalize stories. And I think the 40-40 life is going to be one of those that takes this channel forward and maybe helps grow the channel, because I think if we really talk about real life things, more people will come, follow, and interact with all of us. So let me know what you think of the 40-40 life. What are you doing to make your 40-40 life better or shorter or whatever? I'd love to hear from you. Have a wonderful day. And if I don't do one of these again, I'll talk to you tomorrow about the financial news of the day. Take care.